Welcome back to Ask Logicool. We haven't had an episode for quite a while, but there have been plenty of Training Tips 5-6 episodes for you to watch. Today I'd like to cover assessment validation. It's a question I've been getting a lot from students, as well as professional trainers and assessors. To provide some structure to this video, I'm going to refer to the new Unit of Competency TAE ASS 403A, Participate in Assessment Validation, as it provides a good logical series of steps to the validation process. This unit has three elements: prepare for validation, contribute to the validation process, and contribute to the validation outcomes. I'm going to cover each of these elements. To start with, I should define what assessment validation is. I think some of the confusion with validation is that we use the term valid a great deal in the design of assessment. Validation is similar, but there is a slight difference. A validation assessment is an assessment that assesses what it is meant to assess. The process of validation includes checking to see if an assessment is valid, but it also involves other checks and reviews. A good definition comes from a really handy validation guide that you can access from the address on the screen. Pause this video now and write it down. Validation is a quality review process. It involves checking that the assessment tools produce valid, reliable, sufficient, current, and authentic evidence to enable reasonable adjustments to be made as to whether the requirements of the relevant aspects of the training package or accredited course have been met. It includes reviewing and making recommendations for future improvements to the assessment tool, process, and/or outcomes. So the whole point of validation is to ensure that there is the highest quality possible in the assessment systems, policies and procedures, assessment tools and instruments, assessment resources, and assessment outcomes. The key to all of this is that assessment meets the competency requirements it applies to. Okay, so in plain English now, validation is a series of steps that we use to make sure our assessments and assessment processes are of the highest quality possible. The process will involve at least two or more people so that we have a range of experience and opinions, and we need to record the process. Okay, the process of validation. First step, prepare for the validation. Let's keep this simple. 1. What are we going to validate? The assessment tool, the instructions, the observation guides, etc. 2. Who is going to be part of the validation? This will normally be qualified assessors, external people to your organisation, experts in the area of competency to be validated. 3. When are we going to validate? We can validate before we use the assessment tool, while we're using it in a program, and after a program has been completed. Great validation uses all three. Before lets us see if we've got the assessment tool designed appropriately. During allows us to take assessment evidence and participant feedback into account to see how the tool is working in operation. After allows us to look at fully operational assessment tool and check to see that it has worked as we expected. And number 4, how are we going to record the process? If you've downloaded the NQC document mentioned previously, it has a number of very useful forms that can assist in the recording process. The key aspects you need to record are the assessment tool and any additional documents used in the process, who attended the validation and their relevance to the validation, a checklist of requirements that you use to validate against, the meeting minutes, your overall findings in regard to the assessment, a plan of action on who and how the recommended modifications will occur. The second step of validation is contributing to the validation process. Normally, this will consist of a meeting of qualified assessors, but on some occasions, feedback may be gathered from those assessors via, for example, email, and collated at a single point. As a participant in the process, you will need to ensure that you have the competency standard the assessment refers to, the assessment tool and any other supporting documents, copies of the validation record documents. Read all of the above and make sure that you're conversant with the assessment tool and process that you're going to validate. To validate effectively, you will need to be objective, be open to other ideas and views, be practical in the sense that an assessment must be valid, but often there are practical considerations to take into account regarding how the assessment must be conducted, and share your experience, knowledge and expertise. The third step of validation is contribute to the validation outcomes. The overall outcome of the validation process is a series of recommendations on what can be improved to improve the assessment tool and processes. Recommendations could include writing clearer participant instructions, designing an easy-to-use observation guide, adding in another assessment event to cover more evidence, providing professional development to assessors in areas that they are weak in. A plan should be drawn up which explains what the modification required is, who will be responsible for it, how it will be achieved including any resources required and timelines, and when it will be completed. There you go, validation. In summary, validation involves preparing and planning for the validation, being actively involved in the validation process and using your expertise to assist in the quality enhancement of the assessment, and ensuring that all of the validation information is recorded and that there is a plan on how the recommendations will be carried out. So there you go. Validation isn't all that complicated, is it? It should actually be part of every training organisation's quality process, regardless of whether they are an RTO or not. Done well, validation ensures that your assessments are the best that they can be. This will ensure that participants are assessed correctly, assessments are well conducted, and you are performing professionally in your role. Thanks for watching, and if you have any other questions about assessment, training, education, coaching, or any other related fields, please let me know. I'm more than happy to provide the answers.